Excellent!
I think it might be working.
What, the mic?
Like, maybe
Twitch?
even everything. I don't know.
Oh
I don't
my
know.
gosh.
I don't know.
Pray for the
test
best.
it. You gotta test it.
Plan for the worst.
But I will say, if it does still sound like we're really deep voices on Twitch, it's Twitch, because I just recorded locally and it worked just fine. Oh, we sound normal?
No way.
Oh, we sound normal.
How'd you do that? What'd you do?
It's the blue? I don't know.
I see.
We're still not sure.
Just mess up my segment.
Twitch also had some just wonky stuff going on just now, which is weird.
Wow. Go blue.
People are saying we sound normal. It's even like in sync for the most part. This is amazing. Technology.
I blame the mic.
I don't think it was the mic.
What else?
Well, no, it might be. I don't know. I don't know.
It's the only variable that you've swapped out.
Blue snowball. Okay. I'm going to take this off.
Yeah.
Let's get professional.
Oh, yes.
Hey, everyone, and welcome to Awesome Hardware Show.
No.
Awesome Hardware. So
Yeah.
welcome to Awesome Hardware, our live show that we do every week on Tuesday evenings.
That's
This is side B of show number 5.
That's right.
If you missed part 1,
Yes.
go over and watch it on Kyle's channel.
Child.
We've been doing a little bit of drinking today because it's Tuesday.
It's okay. It's okay,
no,
Paul.
It's
Don't worry about it, Ball.
It's St. Patrick's Day. It's a great day. We have some tech stuff to talk about. We've been dealing with some technical issues today.
Yes, we have.
Where I wanted to be at today was I wanted to be using the new camera. Thankfully, we are doing that. So hopefully, it's a little bit clearer for you guys, picture-wise and everything. We've upgraded from a webcam. Let me just pour a beer here real quick. And then the other thing we were going to do was we were going to switch over to using XSplit, which we had up and running, and we did a test stream of earlier, like at 3 today, and we're like, hey, it works, it's doing good. So at this point, we're still not sure whether it's the kind of weirdness that Twitch was having this evening, or whether it's the mic situation or what. But anyway, thanks for sticking with us, guys. If you're still around, we do have an entire second half of the show still planned. Going to talk about some tech news from GTC, which started today.
GPU Tech Conference?
GPU Technology Conference,
right,
put on by NVIDIA. I also have some other news, a little bit of news from CeBit. We're going to do a sword fight because we always got to have one of those on my half of the show. And then at the end of this, we're going to be taking your questions, so you can leave us questions in Twitch chat, although you might want to wait till we're paying attention to it,
right,
towards the question time, or you can be tweeting to us at our Twitter handles.
Yes.
All right, there's the intro. And
yeah, and just to re-enunciate, shirts. Buy
Yes.
shirts at paulshardware.net, and limited time edition shirts at awesomesaucenetwork.com/store.
Kyle has shirts with clever sayings on the back.
They are super clever.
My shirts don't have those, but they're still
But they have your face on them.
very soft, and they have my face on them.
Super sexy.
All
right. What do we got, Paul, in store for our fans today?
It's quite ahead on that one. Okay. Drinking some Boddington's Pub Ale.
Quit while you're ahead.
Yes. All right. So let's jump right into it. We typically start off side B with continued news, and if you guys didn't already hear about it, you probably don't pay close attention to the tech news on the internet, but GTC is going on right now. So my news section is primarily comprised of GTC news, and of course the biggest news that all of us are probably most interested in at GTC.
Titan X!
It's Titan X, yes, Titan X. Titan X has been teased. Jensen kind of let the cat out of the bag at GDC about a week and a half ago. So what can we say about Titan X? Well, we can say that it's like, here's the nutshell Titan X. Take a GTX 980, multiply it by 1.5, and that's roughly the amount, or that's pretty much the amount of features you get in here. So you can see the GM204 right here that the 980 is based on has 64 ROPS. GM200 has 96. 128 texels, and 292 on the GM200. GM200, by the way, that's what the Titan X is based on. Shader processors goes from 2048 to 3062. Rasterized triangles per clock from 4 to 6. Memory interface even jumps from 256 to 384. Transistor count from 5200 to 8000, and a much larger die size. It's still 28 nanometer manufacturing process. And then here, and I always love that they include this. This is a top-down view of the GTC conference floor, and this is included so that everyone here at the conference can more easily find their way to the different rooms that they might be making their way to. So yeah, all the little green dots there, that's where people are going to be sitting at the conference. That's when they're served their meal, which I believe they dine on venison and blood sausage.
Right. But I know in some auditoriums, those seating areas are blocked. They're blocked off.
Depends. It depends. Those seats usually sell for less, but that's why that chart is included there. Now, apart from that, the other big news about the Titan X is that it has 12 freaking gigabytes of frame buffer. 12 gigs. So here you can see the shot of the back of the card. The article we're looking at right now, by the way, is from Tech Report, techreport.com. So I'll include a link to that so you can take a look. Look at all them memory modules entirely populated on the back. That's kind of rare, I feel like, on a lot of graphics cards. But that's because it's got 12 freaking gigabytes. Some other comments. Aesthetically, it looks the same. And
it's black.
You can go back and forth. It's black. They keep making different things on the shroud, darker color or black or gray. I will say that I still like this cooler, but it would be nice to see something
different.
They've been
a while.
Sticking with it for a while. It's just, it's new. Come on, NVIDIA. Throw something else in there.
Right.
That'd be cool. That said, it's still a very good cooler. But since this is a much larger card and a much larger chip, they're actually pushing the limits of what it can do. So we have lots of benchmarks here, and actually I'm going to switch to over to PC perspective to take a look at some benchmarks.
Linus just posted his review of his.
Yeah, I didn't watch that. So as you might expect, compared to a GTX 980, you're going to get roughly 25-30% more performance improvement. It's still not going to be the 295X2. 295X2 from AMD still holds the place as the fastest fastest card.
Yeah.
The Titan X takes its place as the fastest single GPU card. But there's lots and lots of benchmarks. There's just so many of them out there. I didn't get a Titan X, sad face, but that did mean that I didn't spend my last 4 days of my life running benchmarks, and I can just read everyone else's. So that's kind of nice,
That is nice.
Anyway, so I'm not going to run down all these benchmarks, you guys, because it's much easier to just kind of summarize it. Like when you're reading these articles that Ryan and his team have written. So
you said 1.5 about 1.5 the performance of a 980, right? So
yeah, I mean less than 1.5. It's 1.5%. It's 50% more specs
on a good day.
But it's not necessarily going to be 50% more performance. Oh look, they even give an exact measurement of the die size right there next to a quarter. Great job job there, Ryan Shrout and team. The other thing that was announced today there was a lot of speculation about was the actual price of this card, which is $1,000 or $999 if you don't like rounding up. And I don't know. I had kind of like a back and forth mentally with myself. When it came out at $1,000, I was like, oh good, it's only $1,000. And then I thought to myself, no, wait, hold on. How is it that I'm thinking to myself, good, it's only $1,000?
When the 295X2,
it's a single GPU graphics card. So the prize goes to NVIDIA this round for making all of us think the phrase. I don't know if you guys thought the same thing. Good, it's only $1,000. Used to be like top-end graphics cards like $500, $600, but they've kind of pushed it. Now, when the Titan launched, the original Titan, last generation, people were like, it's $1,000. That's expensive for a graphics card. But NVIDIA was like, hold on. It's not a gaming card. this isn't our gaming card. It's got like excellent double floating point precision, and really this is a development card. This card is made for for use in workstations and for use in scientific applications and simulations and all that kind of thing. And people are like, okay. And I have actually heard from people that was a very popular thing to use an original Titan for. That actually a lot of them were sold to universities and those kinds of places that were doing that type of work. However, when Jensen came out and started talking about the Titan X, I didn't hear no double floating point. No, he's talking about single precision,
which
double
indicates
precision.
Gaming performance.
Single precision is much more reference when it comes to gaming performance. We want fast. We don't care about accuracy. When you're doing scientific simulations, you care about accuracy. That's why it double checks it. That's double. I mean, that's a simplification, but
right.
That's why desktop computers you overclock, because you don't really care if it's right 99% of the time instead of 100 if it's going faster.
Sure.
So here's a situation where I'm like, I could have seen them charging $11 or $12 or $1,500 for this, and a lot of people being like, "Oh, that's stupid," but well, it's the fastest GPU out there, so people are still going to buy it. I'm glad it's only $1,000, and yet I still have to step back and be like, yeah, but at the same time, I don't feel like I should be saying, well, it's only $1,000. Good job for keeping it within
right.
range there. I don't know.
Well, I think this is kind of similar to a lot of the Titans out there, where or the previous Titans in former generations that NVIDIA's launched, where they've been around that $1,000 price point, and NVIDIA can probably afford to drop that price even lower, but they know that they're still gonna sell out. Mm-hmm. The thing about the Titan series, just whether it's the original Titan or Titan Z or Titan X, is that it's like slated as the fastest single GPU, right, in the world, and people are going to pay whatever dollar amount you assign it, because it's the fastest or it's the most of something. People will just buy it regardless of price.
Oh yeah.
And I don't think this is such a niche thing for like people who have that kind of money to spend, that it just the nature of the card itself warrants an unreasonable price tag, if that makes sense.
So, as with many things, you must pay a much higher premium if you want to get the top end of what's available.
Yeah.
That's a very, very standard situation with pricing. Particularly when, if you can produce the best of the best. I mean, that's if you were to go to an Apple marketing representative and say, why is Apple hardware cost so much? That's probably what they say. Well, we make the best hardware that's out there, and it's the most well designed, and there's people who might agree or disagree, but that is something that you can often charge a premium for when you have the best thing that's available. So I'm curious to know what you guys think. Maybe we'll come back to this when we get to the Q&A section. Do you think $1,000 is a good price for the Titan? Do you think it's where it should be? Do you think that NVIDIA should be charging $700 or $800 for this card, or do you think it's worth more than that? Do you think this is a top of the line card and NVIDIA has every right to charge $1,200 for this, and maybe they're only charging $1,000 because they're trying to maybe bump their image back up after the bit of a debacle that they had with the GTX 970 and the whole memory allocation issue?
Oh yeah.
Very curious to hear what you guys have to say about all that stuff. But let's move on from the Titan X. We're going to be coming back to that just a little bit later on in the story. Oh, I did want to point out, as we were talking about the 12 gig VRAM before we move on, one of the questions that I had was, well, like, what do you need to do to take advantage of 12 gigs of VRAM?
6 4K monitors.
I follow Jason Evangelho. He is a writer for Forbes, does their tech stuff, and he does a lot of interesting... I like the ideas he comes up with when he's reviewing hardware, but he was like kind of the same question. How do you max out a GTX Titan X? So he managed to get 9.4 gigs used on the Titan X while he was benchmarking. But in order to do that, he ran 3D Mark, Crysis 3, Tomb Raider, and the Unigine Heaven benchmark all at 4K, all at the same time.
On one monitor?
Yeah, all in the same system.
Right.
I mean, monitors don't really matter.
That's
If
true.
you're running all of those, then it's putting all that memory for all of those programs into the GPU's frame buffer. So yeah, he managed to get 9.4 gigs used in that scenario. I had also heard that Shadow of Mordor, if you turn everything up there, you can get up above 6, with just that single game. So maybe there's going to be some people who are throwing more games at it just to see like what it actually takes for that. Because that's a good question. Like, what might you actually need that much frame buffer for? Is it a marketing selling point, like just to be able to say it's got the biggest, or is it something that's actually going to come in useful? So that's another thing that we'll probably see in the coming few weeks as people start to take the card.
I think the whole Titan line is a huge marketing game for NVIDIA. It's basically them. Yeah. It's like just an opportunity for them to flex their muscles and say we are the leading company in this industry, in like the graphic support market.
Yes,
and like it's
and it's also you can tell it's a point of pride because there are no third-party Titans.
Exactly.
There are third-party Titans that are sold by third parties, but there's no third-party Titan design.
This is purely NVIDIA.
So if you look, and in fact, this is something that that some people I've already heard talking about. I really want to see this. I want to see ASUS or MSI, or one of the third-party add-in board manufacturers take the Titan, do a third-party, cooler on it, or maybe do an all-in-one liquid cooler on it, something like that. That would be really cool, but I would guess we're not going to see that.
Right.
NVIDIA did the same thing with the original Titan. They kept it as their flagship product, and they didn't want to dilute that image of this, like, here's the Titan and here's the best card you can get right now, by having a bunch of different versions of it that looked different. So that's kind of what they've done, and I don't expect them to go any other route with this. If they release what would be the GTX, like a 780 Ti or a 780 equivalent of the Titan, so like a cut-down GM 200 chip, which would hopefully be in the more like $550 to $700 range. Then we'll probably see third-party options with. Other than that, though, it's all going to have to be like aftermarket solutions like water blocks, like EK. Actually, EK I think already has water blocks for the reference Titan board. So we're probably actually going to see some pretty sweet aftermarket solutions soon, but it's not going to be something you can buy right off the shelf.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. My next bits of news information here are from the other parts of the keynote. Now, I kind of tuned in for the keynote this morning, and Jensen started off with Titan X, which was good, and then they dove into some other subjects, and I was kind of thinking to myself, I bet they've lost a lot of their viewers at this point, because they were diving into some stuff that was a little bit more
self-driving cars and stuff.
I mean, it's just a little bit harder to wrap your head around, and it's a little bit more theoretical. Now, GTC is theoretically, it's not theoretically, but it's about developers. It's about NVIDIA working with developers to develop, whether you're talking about graphics engines, or whether you're talking about the work they're doing, like with Tesla and self-driving cars and that sort of thing. So I'm really quickly going to bounce off a few of these since they're a little bit higher level. I'm not going to delve too deeply, but there's some interesting stuff here. So one thing he kept talking about was a very fast box, which was a unique way of describing this thing, which is a dev box, the digits dev box to be more specific. Now, basically what they've done here with this dev box is they've taken 4 Titan X's, they've dropped them into the same box, which is actually a half. It's a Corsair. I was about to call it a half, but it's not the half. That's a Cooler Master.
That's the Air 540.
Corsair Air 540. 4 Titan X's in there. And what this is doing is basically it ties in this this hardware solution with a bit of software called Digits, and Digits lets you set up a neural network and lets you train them to use deep learning. Is that all right?
This tells me nothing.
Does that make any sense?
What does that mean?
Do you know what that means?
Explain.
Deep learning.
Please explain deep learning. Learn me some deep learning.
All right, so I am not qualified to get into the details on this, but I can give you the kind of basic understanding that I have. So we've heard a lot of discussion in let's say the past 5, 6, 7 years about like big data, and also the ability of computers, and especially computers with some level of intelligence built into them, to take large data sets and to derive information from them. So we're talking about everything from the type of intelligence you need in a self-driving car to the types of crazy computational challenges that you have to take on when you're dealing with stuff like predicting the weather and like chaos theory and all that kind of stuff. Very, very heady types of topics. However, NVIDIA has been doing a lot in this market, and they've really been doing a lot to push forward the idea of GPU compute, so massive parallel computing, because what you're doing is you're taking so much information, and in order to churn through that information, parallel computing is just the best way to do it, because if you're dealing with something like a more traditional, say, x86 based computer, it just takes too long. That's probably as far as I should dive into it without getting into stuff that I'm not as familiar with. But the Digits Dev Box is actually taking some new technology, some new software that they've been developing to essentially create what is more of a neural network. So what they're working with is the ability for computers to learn, to recognize patterns. And what they were talking a lot about at the conference this morning was the ability for a computer to look through a bunch of images and recognize the information that's present in those images. Okay. So this is something that's really, really compute intensive, but it's also something that the development has taken some time, but they've made a lot of breakthroughs more recently. So the very fast box that Jensen was talking about, or the Digits Dev Box, is basically kind of like a shortcut to allowing developers to work with this type of technology. It's giving you a ton of processing power, and then it's giving you the software that it's based on, the Digits software, which again is to set up neural networks. Now, what they've been doing with these neural networks is they've been, well, there's part of it that goes into the self-driving cars category, and there's part of it that they were discussing earlier that was about the recognition of information online. And they've actually come to a point where the artificial intelligence that's recognizing images that they're looking at online, it has surpassed a human's ability to recognize.
Right.
And they were showing some examples during the keynote, and this is still a developing technology, so not all of them were 100% correct, but they were showing some examples of a picture. And you'd look at that picture, and you would kind of get an idea or a phrase in your mind of what is in that picture. And then it would show the sentence that the neural network came up with to describe that picture. And the level of detail that they're able to achieve at this point is really quite fascinating. I mean, they're showing stuff like one of the things that messed with it was just a picture of water with a flying fish, and it thought it was a bird flying over the water because the idea of a flying fish is a bit more of an abstraction. But the level of detail that it was able to describe these pictures with was really incredibly fascinating, and it borders on the, like, I don't know, like anytime you get into this idea of like massive parallel computing, hyper intelligent computers that can learn for themselves, you start getting into that kind of Elon Musk category of like, we must not let the AI gain self-awareness and then take over the world and decide that humans are a plague or something like that. So it's hard to kind of push that from the back of your mind, but at the same time, the ability for a computer to actively look at an image and recognize what is going on in that image and identify things is incredibly important when it comes to self-driving cars. Mm-hmm. So at the very least in the shorter term, if you want to discuss it in this context, this is something where it will be incredibly, incredibly helpful. And NVIDIA has already been working with Tesla for quite some time. If you look at any of the new Teslas, they all have Tegra-powered, heads-up displays, little consoles in there. They're all touch displays, and those are really cool. Very fun to look at CES and some of the shows where they have them on display. But this is kind of like the most practical application that I see: self-driving cars, and if you have video cameras on a car, essentially what any intelligence that is running that self-driving car is looking at is what the images are picking up. So being able to distinguish a baby carriage from a pile of garbage on the side of the street, that's going to be pretty important. Being able to distinguish a car that's parked on the side and a car that has a door that's about to open or something, and being able to recognize a door opening and then being able to to actively consider. There's probably a person about to step out of that car,
Right.
and to redirect the car. That's a practical application of that. I wanted to sit and brainstorm and try to come up with other ideas for how this type of visual recognition could be used in a practical real-world environment, and I didn't have time, so that's another thing that I'd love to hear back from you guys and the ideas of visual image recognition, because that seems to be something that they're really going for with this. And there's it's another application that does come to mind, I guess I should say, is being able to categorize the information that's available online. And you have massive amounts of information, and being able to automatically parse that, look at images that are uploaded, look at videos that are uploaded, and recognize what's going on and categorize that. That's important to some degree, although I'm sure there's other more viable applications.
Well, I think that could just be cool just for browsing the internet or browsing the web in general. Like, I mean, what if you come across an image on Google where you have no idea what it is, right? And then somehow using this functionality, the server can tell you exactly what it is you're looking at and explain it, which is something that we haven't really seen too much of before. It's been done in practice and in theory, but to look at an image where you don't know what that's a picture of, and be able to just almost click a translate button, image into words,
at the very least,
this thing could translate it for you.
At the very least, it would be great for research.
It would.
This is one of the slides they showed that I thought was kind of interesting. So this is showing the growth in GPU computing and just the popularity that it's not just popularity, but people have been realizing some of the more practical applications. So comparing 2008, which is the white on the left, and the 2015, which is the green on the right, going from 150,000 CUDA developers to 3 million, going from 27 CUDA apps to 319, going from 60 universities that are training it to 800, going from 4,000 academic papers written on it to 60,000, going from 6,000 available Tesla GPUs to 450,000, and going from 77 supercomputing teraflops to 54,000 supercomputing teraflops. Charts are fun.
Charts. That should be a segment that we do. Charts.
So, moving along with our GDC news and talking about stuff other than Titan X at GDC, although this is still kind of Titan X, I guess. Did you guys check out the Kite demo, or have you seen the Kite demo? This was actually shown at GDC. Oh, you know what? I still left that plugged.
Kite demo.
I left that plugged in over there.
Oh, it's an animation.
I'm only showing this because I really hope that they release this. This seems like it would be a cool benchmark to run.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if that's possible or available or anything like that.
Unigine Heaven with kites.
So the Unreal Engine 4, not Unigine Heaven.
No.
Unreal Engine 4, the Kite trailer, which is just demonstrating some of the amazing visual effects that are available in UE4, which is available for free to developers. And then if you ship a product on it, this is the new rage with game engines. They make it available for free, and then if you actually ship a product that makes money on it, then they take a percentage of a cut. And this seems to be a popular means of doing business with these really high-end gaming engines, which are able to produce, as you can maybe see in this trailer, some really, really incredible visual effects. And just pretty cool. And it's got like a Pixar kind of quality to it for me, too.
Yeah.
Little kid, And then at the end he gets all these kites, and they're really cool. Anyway.
Possessed kites.
Okay, what was this? This is more about that Digits Dev box. So it's 28 teraflops, by the way, available in that Digits Dev box. 1,300 watts of power to use. It costs $15,000, but you do get 4 Titan X's for that. So that's $4,000 of the price. What are they charging the rest of them? I guess probably the software. Software is probably fairly expensive. And then there was the last bit on self-driving cars, and I actually didn't watch this part when Elon Musk came out. I would have watched it if I'd known Elon Musk.
You didn't miss much.
I didn't? You watched the Elon Musk part?
Yeah, I watched the Elon Musk part. That was the only part that I caught it at the very end, the tail end when he came on, and it was okay.
It was okay.
Meh. It was just Elon Musk being Elon Musk.
It was just Elon Musk. He was just like, hey, I'm,
He just shat out
incredibly rich, and
he just shat out a brick of gold on stage, and Jensen shat out one too.
That's what they usually do.
And they fed it to each other.
CEOs.
Yep.
What is going on inside your brain, Kyle?
Who knows?
Always. Anyway, that so endeth my intro news section about GDC.
Yay.
But did you guys know that there's another convention going on right now as well?
Called what, Paul?
Called CeBit. CeBit. All right, CeBit's over in.
Tell us about CeBit.
In Germany, I believe. I sure hope it's. Pretty sure CeBit's in Germany. Yeah. I have a couple bits of hardware news that came out of CeBit that you guys might be interested in, since it's component level hardware, PC stuff.
Hey.
Right. Check this out. AsRock has an X99 Mini ITX board. Did you hear me right?
What?
X99. That's Intel's enthusiast
Mini
platform.
ITX board.
Socket LGA 2011-3, and AsRock went and did a mini.
So basically,
don't
the
you
socket.
love it? Don't you love it when you click a picture
50%
and it brings you to a smaller version? Oh wow, never mind. That's huge.
Yeah, the socket really does take up like half of the motherboard. That's hilarious.
This is ridiculous. Why did it make this so large?
All right, so
This is. I'm gonna resize this for you guys. I want to make sure you guys can see all this in all its glory.
That's really interesting. They have the PCIe lane parallel with the
That's usually
DIMMs.
That's the same. No, the DIMMs are different. If anything, these DIMMs are different, right? Because the DIMMs are going this way and not this way.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They're parallel. Yeah. Those two slots
okay.
are parallel.
I thought you meant the PCI Express slot was PCI Express slot's where it should be. So this is They had to cut some corners here, as you might already be able to tell. One thing is that this is actually a slim version of the LGA 2011-3 socket, which I didn't know even existed,
What?
but so it does.
What?
And then also you've only got 2 DIMM slots, which if you guys at home are doing your math, will not allow you to use quad channel memory, nor triple channel for that matter. Dual channel is where it's going to max out.
Really?
Yeah, so that's, a limitation, but I don't know. Like, I was so on the fence about this board when I saw it. I will have to say,
What kind of scenario would you use this for?
no, I wouldn't.
You wouldn't?
I'd have to say I don't. I don't think.
I don't either.
I don't, like, I have to give AsRock credit for diving into this, because it's something I've heard people ask about and be like, oh, but it's always that speculation, like, how much power can you cram into a small space, or that kind of question. And it's just impractical for me. Like, losing quad channel memory is I don't like that. Yeah. I don't like being limited to 2 DIMM slots. I think that's very impractical for the amount of power that you might potentially get with LG with the Haswell processor.
By taking on the smaller form factor, you're sacrificing half of the good benefits of the Haswell platform. So
one of the other benefits of Haswell is going to be your massive amount of PCI Express lanes, and with a single PCI Express X16 slot, you're probably not going to be taking very much advantage of that.
It's like
the X99 chipset has a bunch of like SATA Rev 3 ports and additional USB 3.
It's like if we got facials, if we got makeovers and cosmetic surgery to become really hot like models, but also lost both of our arms in the process.
Yeah,
like we're hotter, but we don't have arms.
It's very grotesque, Kyle, but I understand where you're going. So ultimately, this doesn't seem very practical to me at all. I'll still maybe ooh and ah over like a crazy mini ITX system, maybe built with this board and like a Titan X and a 5960X and like the smallest little mini ITX case. That might be kind of cool to look at, but practically speaking, it probably wouldn't. You'd probably be losing some performance because of the memory and all that good stuff. So anyway,
wait, hold on, go back. What was that little CPU cooler?
Oh, it comes with the CPU.
With the CPU cooler?
Yeah. So
why?
Yeah, because it's because of the socket.
Special,
because it's
a
the
special
slim
socket.
It's the slim version of LGA 2011-3, which is another limitation of this board. It does not have that universal compatibility with a lot of coolers. Like when LGA 2011-3 came out, one of the things you could say about it is like, well, it's still the LGA 2011 socket, so any of the enthusiast level coolers that came out for X79 over the past 3-4 years, you could still just drop onto that, which gave you a pretty wide range.
Right.
This is a variation of the socket that's slimmer, which means it doesn't have the same mounting
Probably
points.
the 4 corner points are inward more.
So for that reason, and then also to provide a little bit more compatibility in small cases where you still need a good amount of cooling for that size of chip, but you don't necessarily need...
Maybe if you had to build the most powerful editing rig in the smallest footprint possible.
Yeah.
Then maybe.
Then make another...
another Mini ITX.
Another handler. Another version of the handler.
Oh, the handler. Oh, good memories.
Right.
Good times.
Okay, let's move on to another one that's a bit more practical. ASUS has announced a new motherboard in the TUF series, TUF, or the Ultimate Force. This is the Sabertooth X99, the successor, if you will, to the Sabertooth X79, which I used in several different builds. The Sabertooth X79 was a great board.
Oh yeah.
Anything further to add besides snap into a Slim Jim?
Oh yeah.
Commercial?
That's Kool-Aid Man.
Oh, is that Kool-Aid Man?
I guess that's both.
Anyway, the ASUS TUF Sabertooth, and this is an article from overclock3d.net, has these beautiful ASUS Sabertoothy things. So you got the thermal armor.
Yep.
You have I don't know. I've been a fan of the Sabertooth series for quite a few years now.
Yep.
It's weird to me because I feel like the slot that it fits into with the ASUS lineup with their different series of motherboards is a little weird. Like it's a little.
What do you mean?
Well,
slot?
it's so like most motherboard manufacturers have what they will call like a mainstream lineup. They'll have a series of motherboards that's like. These are kind of your normal boards, and they'll go from like a budget one up to like a pretty decent one. So ASUS has that. They have their mainstream line of boards. Then they have their ROG line of boards, and those will start at a higher point than the mainstream ones, but they'll go up to your really crazy ROG gaming boards built for overclocking and liquid cooling and LN2 cooling and all that kind of stuff. And then they have the Sabertooth or the TUF series of boards,
kind of in the middle.
And well, those are more like. They're built for like long. They're built to last. Like they're supposed to be tough. Like that's why they're called tough. They're supposed to be overbuilt with like really long-lasting components. And then more recently, in the past 4 or 5 years, they've been doing a military color scheme with them. But it's not like they're not built for like, hey, here's a basic board for everyone. Here's the gaming board. It's kind of like this little niche in the middle.
Yeah.
But at the same time, whether it's due to the like idea of like, oh, I just want to buy a motherboard and build a system, and I want to make sure it lasts for 5 years, until I need something new, or whether it's the military color scheme. There've been some really cool boards in the series.
Maybe some engineer at ASUS just came up with like a drawing or a blueprint of this board. And everyone loved it, but they had no idea. They had no place for it. They're like, where the hell? I mean, it doesn't fit ROG, and it doesn't fit our standard line. Why don't we just make up a TUF? What do we call it, TUF? And then TUF was born.
They've had. I mean, TUF's been around for a while.
I know.
They've had several boards.
I'm talking about like its original inception.
But just like with like when your enthusiast level was at X79 and you're looking at like the LG 1150 boards and stuff that came out, like when Z87 and Z97 launched, and you're like, oh man, it has cool stuff. If you're on an X79 TUF board and you were really waiting for X99, it's got all those upgrades. So it's got that awesome TUF fortifier back plate.
Yep.
Which is very unique. There's not a whole lot of motherboards that have back plates.
Nope.
We're still working on getting all the GPUs to have back plates for that matter. But yeah, then it's got this thermal armor, this like kind of plastic casing that they put over the top, which again. Either like they'll tell you it's got these channels in there where they put the fans in for airflow, and that can help keep the components cooler and help make them last longer.
It's also for dust too, right?
Yeah, well they have these dust
covers,
these slots, so you can pretty much fill up every slot with a dust cover for everything that you're not using, so it won't get dust clogged in it and possibly.
It's basically built to survive the apocalypse. It's a motherboard that is apocalypse friendly and doomsday ready.
And then I don't know what these lighter blue ports on the back are. I'm not quite
charging.
Sure about that.
Either charging or
I don't know. Maybe, but yeah, it's got dual NICs, and then here's very small text for all the rest of the specs on it. Yeah, and here's the terribly color matched system that they have at
that looks terrible.
Yeah, it's got one like a plasti dipped case.
It's like red and it looks blue,
like
but
ROG,
maybe it's white.
ROG everything, but then these like kind of bluish looking LEDs, and then the TUF board.
I kind of have a similar setup in my personal rig, actually.
Oh, people are saying that's USB 3.1. Aha.
Ah, yes.
Good to know. Thank you, RoboHazard and Xmass.
Gracias.
And good to know for anyone who maybe didn't.
So are 3.1 going to be turquoise?
That is what we're hearing in chat.
All right.
This is the first I've heard of this, that there's a color standard for USB 3.1.
Teal, bring it on.
Yeah. Teal, maybe not the most fashion-forward choice, but whatever. It's good to be able to easily visually distinguish that from other stuff. All right.
Cool.
I have one more news story from CeBit.
All right.
Although it's not really from CeBit. It's just a story I wanted to talk about, and I had nowhere else to put it.
That doesn't count.
All right. So the tech report, the gentleman over there, actually Geoff, who does a lot of their storage, has been running a test for 18 months, and I don't know if you guys have heard about this. Actually, I think Linus talked about this on the WAN show just this past week as well.
Oh yeah, I heard about this.
So this was an 18-month-long test where they took a bunch of SSDs, they used the Anvil storage utility, and they created a script to basically keep running it over and over and over and over and over again. Yeah, the idea was to run it on these drives until they died. So they were torturing them. And they've had several updates already to date. And actually for the past, I don't know how many months, quite a few months, it's been down to 2 drives. But the last 2 drives have finally failed. And this is just a fascinating article because I like anything like this where they've taken a bunch of time to like actually do some testing. Now, there's scientifically speaking, this was not a very wide sample size. They're testing individual drives. It's going to be, looking at stuff that's variances from these individual drives, not necessarily a lot of them over time, but
still new information.
Yeah, but you can see that they have charts here for like when reallocated sectors first started appearing. Those are sectors that the SSD has decided are no longer usable, so it has to move the data somewhere else, and it flags that sector as not usable anymore, and it stops writing there. The last 2 casualties were a Kingston HyperX 3K drive, which is the second one actually. So what they did, since these are standard force drives and they used on-the-fly compression, they split it up and they had one drive being fed compressible data and one drive being fed incompressible data.
Okay. What are the results?
Well, the HyperX 3K that was fed compressible data did very well.
Yeah, and the 3K was
not
the
actually,
one.
Yeah.
That was supposed to last a little shorter too, like it.
Yeah, the 3K. I mean, Kingston came out with the HyperX originally, which had a 5,000 program erase cycles. Then they came out with the HyperX 3K, which sounded like an improvement, but actually it was just NAND manufactured on a smaller process that had only 3,000 program erase cycles. It's still a very good drive, though. I mean, you're still using one of those, aren't you?
Yep, I have been for the last 2 years almost.
Actually, I might have one. I think there's one in my CPU benching, CPU testing system down there. Yeah. Samsung 840 Pro though was the last man standing.
Oh, okay.
You can see here the reallocated sectors as it started. Once it gets up to around the 600 to 700 terabytes written phase, it starts to creep up there, and it climbs and climbs and climbs over the life of the drive. We also have there's a reserve that the controller sets aside, and you can see that kind of slowly starting to degrade over time as well once it gets to more and more data written. Just one of those fascinating articles that I found really interesting to read. They have a lot of cool metrics on here, a lot of cool graphs, so I would encourage you guys to check out this article over on the Tech Report. And lastly, Geoff, I assume this was written after having some drinks and late at night, but he rewrote the song I Will Survive. Oh. Written from the perspective of the 840 Pro that lasted...
Oh, sing it for us.
No, I can't.
Why not?
Because they already tried to force Geoff to do it on the Tech Report podcast, and it was...
But you will do it better.
No, Kyle.
Yes,
no.
we were both in drama at some point.
You really want me to sing this whole song right now?
Blow up the chat if you want Paul to sing the damn song.
Every single verse.
Let us know in chat. Just give us a sample. Give us like one verse. Give us one stanza. Just do the opening.
What I need.
Come on. At first I was pristine.
First
And
I was
touchdown.
6. All SSDs.
Yeah.
Just lab rats in the crosshairs trying to cope with this disease. Electrons tunneling through our cells with every right we slowly beat. But all you seem to care about is the specs that we see. Go on now, watch. The gigs add up. And then the stream of files just to see if we'll get stuck. And when my friends around me slowly fall, think I'll follow. Think I'm gonna hit the wall? Oh, no, not I. Everybody,
hey,
I will survive.
Yeah.
As long as I know how to write, I know I'll stay alive. Yeah. I've got all my cells to give and a persistent will to live. I will survive. I will survive. Hey.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well done. See? Relatively painless.
Anyway.
That's probably the highlight of the stream for most people.
Article. All right, no.
Cool.
See, Kyle, you speak too soon. You
speak
too soon, my friend.
Oh,
because we are about to move into segment 3,
which is
sword fight.
Sword fight.
Time for sword fight. Now, Kyle did a fantastic lower thirds for this, which we can't use because we're not using XSplit because of all the technical difficulties that we had earlier on. But I promise you, it was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we've been discussing. So here's what we're gonna do. So sword fight, if you guys aren't aware, is I bring up a controversial topic. Kyle and I each take opposing sides. We argue it to the best of our abilities. I post a straw poll in chat, which you guys can visit and vote yourselves, and then we'll take a look and see if our arguments swayed you, or if we were right, or if we were wrong.
Yep.
This first one is pretty straightforward. And you know what? I need to make sure I'm using the right keyboard. First one is pretty straightforward. Yes, it's penises. Just guessing what the lower thirds was.
Just 2 dicks.
So we've been talking about the GeForce GTX TITAN X, and I've been looking at a lot of benchmarks today.
Yes, you have.
I have. I've looked at quite a few, and all of them were roughly the same. Now, my question for you guys today, I'm going to post it in chat. I need to post it several times because that's what you do. Right, okay.
The sword fighting topic.
So, if you're going to be benchmarking a graphics card, Kyle,
yeah,
what is better for testing the graphics card's capabilities? Synthetic benchmarks, such as 3D Mark, for example, or the Unigine Heaven benchmark, for example, or
any built-in.
I'm hoping they make that Kite demo into a benchmark as well. Or the other side of it would be real-world benchmarks. That's where you take a game. You load up the game, you ideally find some point within that game which you can run multiple times over and over again to have some level of consistency from run to run. And then you would run a utility to monitor your frame rate, such as Fraps, or if you're super fancy, you'd set up a frame rate capture analysis testing configuration like they have over at PC Perspective. So yes, real world or synthetic benchmarks, which is better? Kyle, prior to starting the show today, has already agreed to argue on the side of... What did you say you were going to argue again?
I think I said I was going to argue against... Or I was going to argue for real-world benchmarks.
All right, so Kyle is going to make a case for real-world benchmarks. Kyle, why should we use real-world benchmarks and only real-world benchmarks?
All right, so like the way I see it is when I'm looking at benchmarks for a video card...
That's stupid.
I haven't even started yet.
Okay. Just get warmed up.
You're stupid. So when I'm looking at benchmarks for a card, or for anything really, I'm not just looking for a... It's not just a numbers game for me. I'm not looking to see how many more points these seemingly pointless points are when compared to other similar pieces of hardware in its class. What I'm looking for is what kind of experience can I expect to see in my day-to-day use, or a specific application that relates to what this piece of hardware will be doing for me. So yes, benchmarks should be consistent, but I feel like there is still a way to gain consistent results with a real-world test. Doing the same run over and over and breaking it down to a science in that way can give you very similar results within half of a frame per second. I mean, I've done this myself where I've jumped into Battlefield 4 and done a real-world performance test and still seen exactly the same, almost exactly the same results for each run. With the same settings and whatnot. So I feel like in that regard, it provides more value to me as a customer. If I'm looking to buy a video card, for example, I want to know, at the end of the day, all I want to know is what kind of settings can I expect to run, Battlefield 4 at? And how many frames per second will that get me? As opposed to a score like in 3D Mark Firestrike, for example, where it's very good to tell the difference between two different components, but at the end of the day, that doesn't really tell me anything about what this component that I'm about to buy can do for me. So I think for the end user, right? For the end user, I feel like real-world benchmarks are more valuable. I think maybe if you're a scientist and you just want to see, and that's where you come in. I guess you're the more scientific approach for the argument of synthetic benchmarks and that kind of consistency. So why don't you give us the flip side there?
It's a valiant effort, Kyle, but let me explain to you all of the reasons why you are wrong.
Let me show you how it's done.
There are two of them. I'm just going to keep things simple here. So let's start off with reason number one, and the reason number one is human error. You see, Kyle, the point of benchmarking is to establish clearly and definitively what the difference in performance is from GPU A to GPU B. And when you are running real-world benchmarks, as they're called, and you have your mouse and your keyboard and you're running through the level and you're shooting people or you're jumping here or you're doing this there, you're inevitably going to introduce variables into your results that cannot be, or that would not necessarily be there if you're running a synthetic benchmark or an on-rails benchmark like a lot of games offer. You're going to be moving at different times, you're going to be shooting at different times. That explosion that happens at point A might happen at a different time in run 1 from 1 to 2 to run 3. And ultimately you're going to have just crazy muddled frame rate results. It's going to be terrible. You're going to lose. Anyway, the second reason, though, why you're wrong and stupid is...
Go ahead.
So
Go
I'm
ahead.
Just going.
Just lay it
just
on me.
Going full bore right here.
Yeah.
The second reason why synthetic benchmarks are better is because when you, with your paltry level of human knowledge, go into, let's say, any given game and decide to yourself, here's where I'm going to run my benchmark. There are a lot of different varying levels of detail, and there's a lot of different effects, and there's a lot of different factors. There's a lot of things, I guess I should say, that go into any game. You're not necessarily going to encounter each of those things at any given point in any given level. So whatever little benchmark run test that you've set up that you're running through every time to try to get yourself a benchmark run, you might not necessarily be testing certain effects. Like you might not be going through a very heavily tessellated level or area of a level. You might not be testing volumetric fog because that doesn't exist in the level you're running through. Whereas synthetic benchmarks are specifically designed to introduce all the different effects that a game might have into the benchmark run. Not only that, but at the same time, they're running the exact same run over and over again to give you an apples-to-apples comparison and also to give you a full test of all of the features of both the game, but also the ability of the graphics card to handle those effects.
So, all right. So, if you're talking about
I'm right and you're wrong.
If you're talking about real-world gaming benchmarks, having these muddled,
there's no rebuttal here. We're supposed to go and see what people think.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry.
I mean,
there's no rebuttal.
We could keep arguing.
You're right.
For,
No.
for
You're
an
right.
hour.
It will go on forever.
But I do have a second sword fight.
Okay.
Here, so
as long as we can agree that I'm right.
We should definitely
Let's move
agree.
on.
All right, let's check out what you guys thought and how persuasive we were. Oh, wait, I need to click results. That's important. Oh, I'm wrong. Kyle, you won.
Well, yeah.
So apparently you guys like real-world benchmarks a lot more. 46 votes. Synthetic benchmarks only got 11 votes, despite my persuasive argument on all of those incredibly accurate and true points I made.
Not persuasive enough, I guess.
Of synthetic benchmarks. Okay, to give you guys my honest opinion, since obviously neither of us feel so strongly one way or another.
After you've lost so terribly at the poll,
yes,
now you're like,
only when I lose.
I just want to say I completely take back everything.
I left this out of the results. I was putting the results for this, and I was like, this is pretty narrow. I didn't really give too many options. But if I gave a third option, which was you should do both, which is what I think. I think most people probably would have chosen that. I like having both. I like having the real world to be able to say, here's what you can expect in this game. I do like having the synthetics though, because for example, right when Unigine came out, which was like 2008,
right,
or 2009. There were no games that used tessellation at that point. Like there were just no games that had it, and it was one of the amazing features of the 5000 series AMD graphics cards that were coming out at that time. And the only way to test how it could handle that was a synthetic benchmark like Unigine. So that's another reason why synthetics do have some value, is because they can be used to test features, like graphics engine features, that you might not. Thank you, Kyle, for finishing my sentence.
And you're wrong.
I was taking a long time getting that through. All right,
helping you out.
Second part of my sword fight segment. All right.
Yes.
So this is GTC edition of the straw poll of I keep calling it straw poll. It's St. Patrick's Day.
Hey.
And I was gonna cut myself off earlier, and Kyle was like, "No, you should keep drinking beer."
Pansy.
Anyway, yes. Where is it going with that? Sword fight. Yes, the second question of sword fight. Now we've been talking about GDC today, or GTC, and a lot of stuff that NVIDIA was coming out with. And I was kind of alluding earlier to the fact that some of the stuff with deep learning is just it's creeps me out a little bit. Like I'm all for forward progress and improving things and everything, but there's certain things that the deep learning that just it
scares you.
It cheats towards all of those like doomsday, the technology we create will eventually take over us ideas. So running with that theme, I decided to make up my second straw poll question here. Now,
okay,
I wrote it out very specifically because I wanted to use very specific phraseology. So deep learning will clearly lead to the development of superior artificial intelligence, precipitating the singularity and bringing about the enslavement of all humanity. With that in mind,
okay,
what motivation... Oh, wait, I should get this ready to paste. Hold on, copying.
Killing it, man.
All right, so with that in mind...
Can I read the question?
What?
Can I read the question?
Yes, Kyle, go ahead.
So the question for the second sword fight for today is, what motivation will you require in order to submit your will to enslavement by our robot overlords?
Yes.
What? What did I just...
This has
Seriously?
nothing to do. I'm not running this as a test for the audience, for anyone who's asked me to ask this question. I just thought I'd throw it out there and see what you guys think.
Jesus Christ.
Now the
Paul.
responses here are, you can choose your own response. Jesus. It's up to you guys. Of course, you can choose to never submit. Please note that by choosing this response, you will be immediately terminated. You could choose the option of Soma, another, if you guys are familiar with 1984, another similar drug-induced haze. Ignorance is bliss, after all. Physical pain, torture, maybe even some leather and clamps. You could also, if you so prefer, have your loved ones taken and captured and held ransom, if you will. Do what the robot overlords say, or your family will die.
I'm cool with that.
Or the last option is, I'm good as is. It sounds like a big step up from the management structure that my current place of employment.
I'd go with that one.
Okay. So go ahead and argue for that, Kyle. That's
what?
This is a sword fight. We need to each argue for what our preferred choices here.
So many options.
These are the only choices. I know. I felt like my first sword fight question was very narrow and like direct and to the point. So this one I wanted to give you guys a little bit more flexibility, a bit more range of options. Okay.
So with the last option, are you saying that would be my agreement to submit my will to the
I'm just saying, look. Here's what it's come down to.
Okay.
They're taking over.
Yeah.
There's no fighting it. There's going to be robots in control.
Game over for humans.
They're in charge now.
Okay.
So basically, you're at a point where it's like, look, you can either fight and die, or you can have these options for how you might just kind of run with it, just kind of roll with it. Be like, you know what, here's what it would take for me to just kind of go with this, with whatever's going on right now.
I would probably be like, I would probably just work for them. I would be like, it would be a reversal of roles, right? where now the robots are the employers and humans are the employees.
Okay.
So I would just work for a robot as if I worked for any other company or person or boss. And that would keep me safe. I would kiss a lot of ass just like you do in the corporate world.
So you're saying option 5 here, then? You're just gonna kind of be like, all right, hey, no need to do any form of enforcement or control over me. I'm just gonna do what you guys say.
Right. I'm gonna do whatever they say.
Okay. It's
Yep.
good. It's pacifist.
I think robots are more reasonable than most humans.
Kind of a more pacifist response.
Yeah, it is.
I
huge
dabbled
pacifist.
in pacifism myself at one point.
Yeah.
Not in Nam, of course, but.
So what would you do?
I'm gonna say option 2 here, Soma, another similar drug-induced haze. I mean, I figure if you're going with the let's just roll with it option, might as well have a good time while you're at it, right?
Sure.
I mean, I figure that's just an added bonus
Sure.
on top of option 5 that you're just kind of throwing away.
Right.
But yeah, I mean that would probably be what I go for.
You said that was something in 1984.
So Soma, yes, in 1984, in the dystopian society that they live in the future of. Actually, no, I'm sorry, I'm thinking of Brave New World. My bad.
Okay.
My bad. Brave New World.
Correction.
Sorry about
You
that.
caught your mistake.
I hope I. Yeah.
All right. So it's a drug that they give people.
Yeah. So whenever there's everyone kind of lives in this tiered hierarchical society. Like you're either born as an epsilon or an alpha
Badass.
who runs everything, but everyone's kind of conditioned for that.
Right.
So if you're an epsilon, if you're on the low rung of society, you're like cool with it because you're like, that's what I am. I'm an epsilon. I work. That
Sure.
kind of thing. Anytime there is any potential social uprising or something like that, they have these vents that open up and they go like, and this gas comes out and it's called Soma.
Okay.
And it's just a drug and everyone kind of smells it and then you're just like,
Just chills them out.
Cool, whatever.
Oh. What were we doing?
I'll be honest. This goes back to a paper I wrote in high school in my English class. And my teacher really enjoyed it at the time. And basically, we read Brave New World, and I wrote an article saying like, I think this society is great. like they have solved so many problems. We should go for it. My thesis was based around the Declaration of Independence. And the idea was, well, according to the Declaration of Independence, man is entitled to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Yeah.
And in this Brave New World, you get 2 out of 3, and that's not bad. You just don't get liberty. That's
brilliant.
You get life and happiness.
And what'd you get on that paper?
A minus.
Not bad.
You get 3 grades.
Just
douse
them all with Soma.
He loved it, but
douse them all with Soma.
he had kind of a twisted sense of humor, which is why he was probably really.
So you knew your audience.
Yes, basically. I knew my audience I was going for. All right,
Perfect.
I'm very curious to see what you guys.
And by the way, I don't know if you knew this, but Soma is actually a pharmaceutical drug that you can buy.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Or get prescribed.
I'm sure it's
spelled the same and everything.
Yeah, I'm sure it's been.
It's a muscle relaxer, I believe.
Somewhere. Okay, so really curious what you guys think on this particular one. Oh, wow.
What do we got?
have some rebels.
Yeah, I will never submit.
We have some... I will never...
37%.
Liberty or death.
They have all been terminated.
Wow. So, guys...
a very resilient audience we have, Paul.
Your biological material will be recycled and it will be made good use of.
Humans.
So I thank you. I want to say thank you all for contributing to
the rebel force. Thanks you.
Bit of our society.
Yes.
And then the second favorite answer was I'm good as is. Is actually sounds like a big step up from the management structure at my current place of employment.
A lot of disgruntled employees.
Exactly.
Who just give me the robots.
Not many people preferring to have their loved ones taken held captive. Kind of surprised there.
Weird.
Kind of surprised on that one. All right.
You guys are strange.
That's the end of segment 3 of 4. Our last segment, as always, on side B is Q&A and
ask away.
This has been a weird day. We've been going long. We've had technical issues.
Going hard.
We might have some random stuff coming up right now, but if you guys haven't already, feel free to tweet me at Paul Hardware or tweet Kyle at Awesome Sauce.
No,
Forever
Kyle.
Forever Kyle.
It's been 2 years and you still can't get it right. 2
Sorry,
years.
Just trying to keep up.
Yes.
Keep up with it.
But yes, go ahead and tweet at us or ask us in the chat. Either one will do if you don't have a Twitter account. If you're not following us already on Twitter, you should. Even though
Andrew Bissaw says Titan X should be $1,000 because they're NVIDIA, and where else could you get a Titan X? Business 101. That's pretty. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to Titan X price, that's hard to argue with, and they've already established that they were able to sell a Titan for that much, and it was successful from everything I heard. So that's pretty. Yeah, that's.
Someone asked if you had Xmas asked if you got your new camera yet. That's what we're using right now.
Yes.
So that's why it looks way better than it did last week in my place.
It's a Panasonic something 750. It's a pretty. It's like a $500-ish range camcorder.
Yep.
But camcorders are much happier just being on and staying on all the time, which is why we went with that one. So yeah, I hope it looks okay. Not quite. Don't have quite the bokeh. Not quite the depth of field that we have with the DSLRs on that one, but
whatever.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's live.
I'm happy with
Tone
it.
50 asks, do you enjoy drugs? What makes you say that? Cake or pie?
What?
Paul?
I mean, what?
Cake or pie?
Cake or pie?
Just impulse.
Pie.
You know, I want to say pie too, but my impulse was cake. Isn't that weird? Like I had to think about it to get to pie. But like right when I saw it, I was like cake, and I was like, no wait, I have to think about this. And then I logically processed my way to pie, but impulse was cake.
I make homemade pies, which are fantastic.
That could sway my decision.
So that's a big factor. I will say with cake, there is a certain type of cake called almost better than sex cake. I don't know if you guys have ever tried it, but it is fantastic. I mean, you have to have like a really, really sweet tooth. It's a very sweet toothy cake.
So it's like birthday cake. Like birthday cake super sweet.
It's like chocolate. It's like pretty dense, rich chocolate cake, and then there's like holes in it with like caramel, and there's like Heath bar, and there's
Heath bar.
Yeah, there's
holy
Heath
shit.
It's really.
I'm sticking with cake then. You said it's called better than sex cake.
It's called almost better than sex cake.
If you combine that with birthday cake, you've got birthday sex.
Wait, we have a real question from Viper4060. I have an ROG Swift in Source Games. I'm getting a blur around player models.
That's
weird.
Have you overclocked your...
OD is off.
Maybe you've overclocked your card a bit too far? Or maybe some kind of artifact like that that's not normal?
Yeah, the most time I've heard about like especially if you're looking at a 3D image, it's like in when it's trying to project in 3D and it's treating depth in the environment and it's trying to actually impart like blur to that or something. The other thing with if you're actually using G-Sync that can come up is if you get the frame rate too low, you can get flickering, which doesn't seem like what you're experiencing here, or you're experiencing here. But but it'll make me sound smart, so I'm going to explain that anyway. The flickering that you get if you're using G-Sync, and I assume this is going to be a factor with FreeSync as well. If the frame rate gets too low, is the chip in the monitor and your graphics card are trying to sync up the frame rate. So let's say your frame rate drops to like 15 FPS or something really low like that. Your monitor is actually preventing itself from refreshing the image because it's waiting for that refreshed image from the GPU. However, any monitor that you're looking at, like any LCD that you're looking at right now, has a fall off time for any time a pixel is refreshed. It can refresh that pixel, but that will decay over time and it will fall out and that will disappear. So that's what's happening, is that the refresh rate is so low that the pixels are decaying, dropping out, and your image is fading away, and that's where the flicker is coming from. Not that is solving your problem, but
so basically you're saying you have no idea why he has blurry player models.
I don't know why you have blurry player models. Wait, OD is off. What is OD?
Something diffusion?
Probably something I should know.
Optimal
density. If you have optimal density turned off, you might turn. Anyway, let's.
Not sure about that.
Does the Swift have trace free? The Swift has ultra low motion blur, which hurts the refresh rate. I don't think you can keep the refresh rate quite as high, but you can. It does synchronize the strobing of the backlight, I believe, which is crazy good for the motion blur.
They're saying overdrive.
Overdrive, okay.
Yeah, so if you don't have pixel overdrive enabled, then you've eliminated that as being a possible issue. But
yeah,
I've never heard of that.
I mean, anytime I have an issue in a game, what I will do is I'll try other games. I'll look at other games, I'll load up other games, and I will test them, and I will see if the issue is replicated. If the issue is replicated in other games that you're playing, then you know it's probably a hardware issue or possibly a global software issue, like something with your with your operating system, or possibly a driver setting that you have going on there, and you can go into the NVIDIA control panel and mess with those settings in there to try to fix something.
At that point, start troubleshooting hardware. Like, try hooking up your computer to a different monitor and see if the blur still persists. Because if it doesn't, then maybe it's your monitor.
Yeah. That, or if it's not occurring in other games, then you would probably point the finger at some setting in the game itself, and go into your video settings and just
delete your System32 folder. That usually helps.
Don't accept that last thing. That wasn't true.
Worked for me.
Kyle.
All right. Any more questions?
Rooster wants us to show this picture of a pizza. Actually, that looks amazing.
Oh.
All right, pull that up for you guys.
Oh my God! Let's just end it on this note.
We haven't answered very many questions though. Although
you're right.
We have had a very long.
Intermission.
I see this
pizza. That looks amazing.
Oh, look at that pizza!
Get in my mouth.
This is one of the dilemmas that we had when we were trying to decide what time we should stream at, and we decided 5:30. And I was always like, oh man, 5:30. We'd probably go till like 7:30ish, and then might get hungry. It's 8:30 now.
Yeah.
We haven't had dinner.
Yeah. Look at, he even cut, like, those are actual slices of sausage that he cut himself, that he hand cut. Yeah. Those aren't just like pepperonis that you buy at the store. That's some serious shit. Well done.
Okay.
Richard.
I mean, guys. Wait.
You gotta admire the pizza, man.
Here, let me answer like 3 more questions because I feel bad cutting off the Q&A. That's a great thing to end on. I'm using a GT 730 at the moment. Is it worth upgrading to a GTX 750 Ti? I need the VGA. Ooh, you need a VGA output for a second monitor. A 750 Ti is a good card and it's a pretty low price. Yeah, I mean. If you're really suffering and you're seeing a need for a higher frame rate and your GT 730 is not doing it, then a 750 Ti is a fairly inexpensive and good card, especially if you're playing at 1080. If you can, I mean, how much does 750 Ti's go for? They're around $100, 120.
Between 100 and 150.
1 to 150.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a 960 will give you significantly more performance than a 750 Ti, but yeah, a 750 Ti is a pretty good entry-level card.
Right. Yeah, anywhere from 120 to 150.
Okay. Somebody's asking where we are. We're in Southern California. Do I think there will be a 980 Ti? My question right now is what NVIDIA is going to do with the naming conventions. We can, based on the past, based on history, we can reasonably assume that there's going to be a cut-down version of the GM200 that the Titan X is based on. In the past, so what they did last time was they had the 680, and they had the 680 for a while, and then they came out with the Titan, and then when the Titan came out and then they came out with other cards, they made them the 700 series. Mm-hmm. So from 680 to 780, you went from GK 104 to GK 110.
Yeah.
Which was what the Titan was based on. So since they already have 980 and then they have Titan X, I don't know if they're going to make a 1080 or something like that, or if they're going to make it a 985. I don't feel like they'd make it a 990 because that would usually be like the number they use for a dual GPU card. Yeah. But yes, I expect there to be a cut down version of the Titan X because usually what happens with a chip like that is they have a certain amount of yield that they get out of the silicon that they produce. They'll use all of the good chips for that for the Titan X. they'll bin some of those and they'll save them for like a Titan X Extreme Edition or Titan X Black Edition. Not that it's not black enough already. And then they'll have the chips that don't perform as well, and they'll disable parts of them, and they'll sell those as lower end card chips with not everything turned on. Maybe a few fewer CUDA cores, probably not as much memory, maybe fewer ROPs, that sort of thing. So yes, I expect there to be a 980 Ti. If it's called a 980 Ti, that's what I'm not sure about.
Yeah.
Who knows what they're going to do with the naming convention, because
NVIDIA's
yeah.
so far they've been known for like bridging the gap between their high-end flagship card and a Titan.
Yes.
In previous generations.
But okay though, I think we should probably cut this off. It's late. We're tired. We're still.
Are
we still going to game tonight? Are we going to play video games?
Oh man.
What do you want to do?
Well, we definitely need dinner at some point.
I need dinner.
We're pushing 9 p.m. here.
Yeah. You got to get home.
I got to get home.
All right.
My house is probably burned down by now.
We're gonna try to. So we've been trying to do a little bit of kind of after party gaming, but since we come to either of each other's houses, and it's about a good 20 to 30 minute drive either way, Kyle's got to get home. So we might be gaming a little bit later on Kyle's Twitch channel, which is Awesome Sauce Network, or my Twitch channel, which is Paul's Hardware. I'll be tweeting about that, and Kyle will be tweeting about that if and when we do.
Yep.
Other than that, thank you guys so much for joining us today and for sticking with us through some of the technical difficulties that we had. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to my channel and subscribe to Kyle's channel. We'll be back again a week from today on Tuesday next with another awesome hardware show.
And we'll have lower thirds graphics next week.
We'll try to have lower thirds.
Stay
We're going to do a bit
that.
more testing with the with the audio. It's going to be fantastic, I promise.
Yeah.
Totally swear. Yeah.
Have a good night, guys.
Thanks for watching, everyone.
See you.
We'll see you in the funny papers. Oh wait, button.